How do you feel? Have you had time to reflect on everything yet? I stood face to face with my husband, the man who had thrown me out of the house after blindly believing his stepchild's lies. He wore an air of superiority, looking down on me as if he knew everything. I couldn't help but laugh. Reflect? No, not at all, I said calmly, pulling a stack of papers from my bag. Now, please sign here. I handed him the divorce papers and the legal documents my lawyer had prepared. He maintained his composure as he signed them without protest until he saw the attached documents. His expression froze, his hand trembling slightly. Beside him, his stepchild Marcus began to panic. The lies they had so carefully constructed had been exposed, and the truth now lay bare. My name is Sarah. I'm a 52-year-old office worker, and I had been married for just a year. I live with my husband, David, and his adult son, Marcus, who worked full-time but refused to leave the house he grew up in. I never adopted Marcus, so to me he was little more than a stranger. From the beginning I hoped he would move out, but Marcus dug in his heels. "This is my mother's house," he said firmly. "She died 5 years ago, and I won't leave the home," I shared with her. I sympathized, having lost my first husband around the same time Marcus's mother passed. But sympathy didn't make his defiance easier to live with. "My mom was a better cook, but I guess I'll eat this," Marcus muttered one evening, picking at the dinner I had prepared with disdain. His contempt wasn't hidden. It weighed on me every day. If my cooking was so unbearable, why didn't he make his own meals? Frustrated, I turned to my husband. "Marcus clearly doesn't like my cooking. What should I do?" David shrugged. "Then stop cooking for him. He doesn't have to eat it." The indifference stung, but I followed his advice. The next time Marcus came home to no dinner, he exploded. "Why isn't there food for me? You married my dad, so it's your job to cook for me too." No matter what I did, I couldn't win. Marcus's comments grew nastier, and David's refusal to intervene left me feeling completely alone. Before we married, David had assured me Marcus would move out soon. Yet here we were. Marcus showed no signs of leaving. "He just can't afford it," David claimed. But I knew better. Marcus had inherited a substantial estate from his late mother and squandered most of it on luxury items. His debts piled up in letters from credit card companies stuffed in his room. He wasn't just reckless with money. He was openly dismissive of me, and David just enabled it. One day my daughter Lily shared her news. "Mom, I got proposed to." Hearing her excitement, I couldn't help but smile. Since my remarriage, good news had been rare. So this was a moment of pure joy. "Congratulations," I exclaimed warmly. "I'm sure your father in heaven is smiling too." Memories of my late husband fill my mind. He had worried about our daughter's future until his final moments. I felt certain he would be relieved to see her find happiness. "I'll introduce my fiancé soon," Lily said, then hesitated. "But do I have to introduce him to David? He's just your second husband. He has nothing to do with me." Her words were honest, and I couldn't blame her. Unlike Marcus, she hadn't been adopted by David, and she had no bond with him. "Just greet him briefly," I suggested gently. "It doesn't have to be more than that." When I told David about Lily's engagement, he barely reacted. His indifference hurt, but it didn't surprise me. He had never shown much interest in Lily. Later, Marcus sneered. "Why don't you just divorce Dad and live with your daughter? You probably hate living with us anyway." Shocked, I looked at David for support, but as usual he walked out without saying a word. Annoyed, I snapped back at Marcus. "Don't you have someone special in your life? Why don't you get married and give your father some peace?" Marcus scowled and walked away without answering. He rarely spoke of relationships, and I doubted he had anyone in his life. The thought of him marrying and bringing a wife into the house filled me with dread. "Do you think Marcus will stay here even after marriage?" I asked David one evening. "Leave it to Marcus." "I don't care either way," he said flatly. His indifference infuriated me. Eventually, I met Lily's fiancé. David refused to come. "I don't care about that. Don't invite me to the wedding either," he said coldly. Lily's fiancé, however, was the complete opposite of Marcus. Mature, kind, responsible. He was around Marcus's age, but carried himself with far more grace. "You found yourself a great man," I told Lily, sincerely relieved. Compared to him, Marcus looked even more pathetic. "If things don't work out with your husband and his son, You can always come live with us, her fiancé said kindly. His words gave me a sense of relief I hadn't felt in years. Back at home, Marcus greeted me with contempt. A housekeeper shouldn't be late. Dad and I are starving. Hearing him call me a housekeeper stung, but David pretended not to notice. Compared to Lily's fiancé, both David and Marcus seemed utterly useless. Meanwhile, David began disappearing every weekend. I'm helping a friend whose mother is in the hospital, he explained. I didn't believe him. When I confronted him, is this friend a woman? He panicked and denied it too quickly. His behavior only deepened my doubts. Marcus noticed the tension and took pleasure in it. Dad probably regrets marrying an old lady like you. Maybe he wishes he'd married someone younger. You're going to get cheated on and kicked out. Poor thing. His words stung because deep down I fear they might be true. Why don't you just give up on Dad and leave before things get messy? Marcus added smugly. That was the moment I realized I couldn't tolerate this life any longer. I often wondered if David intended to replace me with his mistress. Just as I was sinking deeper into my thoughts, Lily called. Mom, I need to talk to you. Can you come over? She asked, her voice serious. Worried, I hurried to her place. Her fiancé, Ryan, was there too. What's the matter? Don't tell me you're calling off the wedding, I said anxiously. They both smiled awkwardly. Why would we cancel the wedding? This is about you, not us, Lily explained. Relieved, I was still caught off guard by their next revelation. Ryan showed me his phone and asked, Is this your husband, David? At first I didn't recognize him, but then I noticed the young woman next to him calling him by name. After examining the photo closely, I realized it was indeed David wearing clothes I'd seen before. The photo was taken at a wedding venue, and they were discussing their own wedding plans. I was speechless. David had no children other than Marcus, so the young woman couldn't possibly be his daughter. The unthinkable truth hit me. He was planning to marry someone else while still married to me. That woman looks far too young to be Marcus's girlfriend, doesn't she? Lily asked. I recalled David's recent suspicious behavior and admitted, I've suspected he might be cheating, but I never imagined he'd be with someone so young. Lily and Ryan were shocked. I told them everything. David's evasive behavior, his frequent absences, and my growing suspicions. Your husband is awful. We need to properly investigate and make sure he takes responsibility, Ryan said firmly. You need to divorce him immediately, Mom, Lily added. I agreed, but knew we needed solid evidence first. Ryan began searching for private investigators. Don't worry about your future, Mom. You can come live with us, he reassured me. Feeling supported, I returned home with newfound determination. Marcus greeted me the way he always did. Hurry up and make dinner. Housekeepers shouldn't be out so late, he said dismissively. His words stung, but I silently prepared dinner. I wouldn't let him see me struggle. Once I had proof of David's affair, I would leave. If David remarried, Marcus would have to rely on his new stepmother, and I knew he couldn't treat her the same way he treated me. When David came home, I decided to test him. Will you be attending our daughter's wedding? They're having it at a prestigious venue, I said casually, mentioning the name of the venue from the photo. His face stiffened for a moment before he denied knowing the place. That reaction confirmed my suspicions, but I didn't press further. Then David changed the subject. Marcus hasn't asked you for money, has he? He's been struggling financially. I shook my head. Marcus had never asked me for money. He only saw me as a housekeeper. He's been pestering me, despite inheriting a large sum from his mother. He blew it all, and now he's asking me for help, David continued. I thought of the debt collection notices I had seen while cleaning Marcus's room, but I stayed quiet. I couldn't bring myself to confide in David, not when he was likely cheating. Besides, I feared Marcus's reaction if he knew I discovered his debts. Housekeeper or not, I haven't heard anything about that, I said instead. David sighed. Can't you talk to him? Tell him to stop wasting money. I was stunned. Marcus doesn't listen to me. You're his father. You should talk to him. But David kept pushing. Don't be so cold, please. I'm not good at dealing with tough conversations. His insistence only deepened my disappointment. The next day, he pressed again. Have you talked to Marcus about the money yet? What did he say? When I told him I hadn't, David grew angry. What are you doing? You need to talk to him right away. Fed up with his nagging, I decided to focus entirely on gathering evidence of his affair. Once I had it, I would finally be free of both David and Marcus. Reluctantly, I approached Marcus. Your father is worried about your spending. He asked me to remind you to be more careful with money. I tried to sound neutral, but Marcus exploded. Who do you think you are, housekeeper? It's my money, and I'll spend it however I want. None of your business. I saw why David avoided this conversation. Marcus was impossible. Still, I couldn't help but wish David, as his father, would handle it. Instead, he ignored his son's flaws and chased after his mistress. Marcus glared at me with hatred. I'll get you kicked out of this house. Just wait. His words stung, but I reminded myself, once I had proof of David's infidelity, I would leave on my own terms. A few days later, Lily called. Mom, we have the proof. Can you meet us at a restaurant? My heart sank. Was it true? Did he really cheat on me? Lily's voice was firm. Yes, he's been seeing a woman much younger than you. They're even looking for a new house together. Ryan handed me the investigation report filled with undeniable photos of David and his mistress. You need to divorce him right away, Ryan advised. This woman is suspicious. She spends extravagantly and might be seeing other men besides your husband. She could be planning to take his money and leave him. Hearing this, I realized how deeply David had fallen into her schemes. They had even visited a wedding venue. She might have already taken money for preparations, too. I knew I had to act quickly. When I returned home, David and Marcus were in the living room. Sarah, come here. We need to talk, David said sternly. Marcus smirked. You've been seeing a younger guy, haven't you? Dad saw you at a restaurant with him. He showed a blurry photo of me with Ryan. Caught red-handed. How embarrassing, dating someone the same age as your daughter. That's Lily's fiancé, and she was with us, I said calmly. But David wouldn't listen. Marcus caught you in the act. You've been cheating on me, haven't you? Leave his house. We'll discuss divorce and money later. I almost laughed at his arrogance. All right, I said. I'll leave. We'll discuss divorce and finances later. As I walked to the door, Marcus shouted, Make us dinner before you go. I'm hungry. Even then, all he cared about was food. I ignored him and left, heading straight to Lily's house with the investigation report. 3 weeks later, David finally contacted me. Let's meet and discuss things at the house. Bring the divorce papers. On the day of the meeting, I arrived with Lily, Ryan, and our lawyer. David's face paled when he saw us. Why didn't you come alone? He stammered. You never said I had to, I replied. The house was already filthy after only 3 weeks without me. Even with all these people, you'll still pay alimony, David sneered. I laughed. I've done nothing wrong. Sign these. I handed him the divorce papers. David froze. Why am I paying alimony? You're the one who cheated, he protested, showing the blurry photo again. Our lawyer calmly handed him the investigator's report. We have proof of your affair. David's face turned ashen. Marcus was speechless. I can't pay alimony. I'm broke. I borrowed money for the wedding and honeymoon, David admitted. Marcus's true motives slipped out. You're not really remarrying, are you? I don't want to lose half of your inheritance. But David shook his head. I already spent all of Mom's inheritance. Marcus collapsed in disbelief. Dad, can't you lend me some money? You got something left, right? I'm broke, David whispered. I reminded them both. Marcus, I found debt notices in your room. At your age, asking your mother to clean your room is embarrassing. Our lawyer presented the alimony documents, and David reluctantly signed them. Ryan added, I heard your mistress is spending your money and seeing other men. David turned white, frantically trying to call her, but she didn't answer. Sarah, I'm sorry. Don't leave us, Marcus begged. Dad's never home, and I'm tired of eating junk food. I shook my head. Ask your father's new wife. You'll have a young housekeeper soon enough. And with that, I walked out for the last time. We went straight to City Hall and filed for divorce. I moved in with Lily and Ryan. It was a bit cramped, but we planned to move to a larger home soon. A few weeks later, I heard David's mistress had scammed him, running off with a large sum of money for a wedding that would never happen. He was left with nothing but debt. Marcus even called me begging for help. Mom, Dad moved out, and I have nowhere to go. I'm not your mother, I reminded him coldly. We're not related, and I've divorced your father. When he kept harassing me, Ryan threatened to report him to the police. That finally scared him off. Life with Lily and Ryan was peaceful. Soon we received wonderful news. Lily was pregnant. I was thrilled to become a grandmother. For the first time in years, life was finally looking up, and I was determined to cherish every moment with my loved ones.